Welcome to another Fanboy Film Nerd Galaxy Class spoiler review. This time a reaction, my very first reaction to a trailer that just dropped at CinemaCon from Warner Brothers, Joker. Joker is my second favorite villain of all time, followed by Darth Vader, who is probably the most recognizable villain of all time. I would say the Joker might be the most recognizable villain of all time just because of the clown look. Everybody knows what a clown is. Worldwide, you can see a clown, and immediately, if you put that clown makeup in a certain way artistically, you know Joker. We knew that the Joker was going to come out for a while now. There's been a buzz about this movie, I would say, going back over a year now. But to bring the Joker into the real world in a Martin Scorsese, almost Quentin Tarantino-like vibe in this trailer. If you have not seen the trailer, obviously, go watch the trailer. If you haven't seen the trailer, you should not be watching this. Go watch the trailer, come back, and then listen to this commentary. I love the trailer. I absolutely loved it. I was a little nervous about this whole concept, and I remember looking at the Joker makeup for the first time when I did some of the screen shots and early promotional material for the Joker movie. Wasn't really keen on it the very first time I saw it. The makeup I'm talking about. But as I looked at it, I started thinking, you know what? This is one of these deals where you are sandwiching Jared Leto's Joker from Suicide Squad in between Heath Ledger's Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker from 2008's The Dark Knight, and this Joker played by Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, you have someone like Heath Ledger, who was not considered at the time a popular candidate to play the Joker in The Dark Knight. Unlike that scenario, Joaquin Phoenix, when somebody says he could play the Joker, you don't doubt it for a second. He's a world-class actor. He's an all-time great. This guy is one of my favorite actors, and unlike Heath Ledger, who is not one of my favorite actors at the time, but turned me on to him by that performance as a Joker, I had to, obviously, like everybody else, reevaluate just how good Heath Ledger was, because that Joker was a Joker we have never seen before, but at the same time, he was the Joker we always knew. It almost seemed like all the Jokers up to that point was leading towards Heath Ledger's Joker. And that was the pinnacle of what a Joker could be. I also love Jack Nicholson's Joker. To this day, I still love that Joker. I remember loving that movie for the Joker. Again, the Joker is my second favorite villain of all time. He's one of my favorite characters of all time. So I'm obviously very excited about this Joker movie starring Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix in Gladiator was the first time I realized this dude is unbelievable. I remember to this day, and Gladiator is one of my favorite films of all time, period. But his performance as Commodus in that movie really just shut everything down for me in my mind about whether or not he could play the Joker. Because if he could pull that off, he could pull off the Joker. The question would be, what would the tone of the movie be like? And that's when we get into what I think was the most interesting thing about the trailer, is that it played as a simple drama, a suspense thriller, perhaps, but at its core, a drama, a tragedy, a story about a man who has been beaten down his entire life and has taken on certain things in his life that kind of influence what he is going to be moving forward. And a clown just happens to be that. I like the fact that this guy is a mental fuck case. This guy is not all there. Obviously, the Joker has never been all there. We have never had an origin story like this for the Joker. There have been other origin stories. One of the ones that stick out in my mind is the Mask of the Phantasm, which is one of the best Batman movies of all time. If you've never seen Mask of the Phantasm and you like the Joker, go check out that movie. That movie is unfucking believable. And the backstory with the Joker and how they set him up, I thought was the best we've seen on screen, period. that is one of my best Jokers, and of course he's voiced by the brilliant Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, if you don't know who that name is. The Joker is, he has had so many different incarnations, and the ways you could play him is one of the reasons why I love him so much as a villain, and more than that, most importantly, as a character. Because unlike Darth Vader is a very stereotypical villain, cliched. I'm a badass. I have agendas and shit that I'm gonna do that is pretty straightforward stuff that we can relate to as far as storytelling goes. But I always liked the Joker because he was not conventional in any way, shape, or form. He's one of these characters. He, in every moment you see him, despite of his TV, cartoon, animated, live action, Dark Knight, Jack Nicholson, Tim Burton version of it, it does not fucking matter. You're gonna get a new Joker every time you see him, and the way he is presented, you can literally go in so many different directions that he is basically an infinite cauldron of ideals when it comes to a character. And that's really great when you're talking about a villain, because most villains aren't that complex. They're not able to be taken and be molded into so many different versions of one idea. And that's what I love about the Joker character in particular. Because let's just take this scenario. You can do Lex Luthor a few ways. You can do Steppenwolf like one way. He's just not that interesting. He has one agenda. Zod is a character that you can take, believe he could maybe be more than what he is. But when you look at Zod, he is who he is. He's just very dimension wise, he's not that complex. And I'm sticking to DC right now, but if you go to a character like the Joker, Penguin, where you have some of these characters that can be molded and shaped into so many different types of characters, it makes it a very interesting character because they almost kind of play with each other and against each other. It's fun to see all these different incarnations of the Joker in such a short time span, because I think the original Batman came out in '89, then you had another Joker in 2008, and you had another Joker in 2014, 15, somewhere around there, with Suicide Squad 16. I think maybe it was 17. Lost count of that date. That movie seems like it's been out forever, Suicide Squad. But needless to say, the most important thing is that you have so many different types of Jokers within a 30-year period. And I think that's awesome because you can clearly chronicle every single one as it's each individual Joker. But you also are comparing that Joker to the other Jokers, which gives extra dimension to each Joker that we see on screen. Because you are saying like, oh, that was very similar to Jack Nicholson's, but completely different in certain ways. And I think as we go forward, I think you really can't go wrong with that character. There's so many different ways you can play that character that I thought this trailer proved that you can take a comic book character, even in its most simplest form as a villain who wears clown makeup, and then make an entire story out of something that you know is going to lead to him being a villain and him eventually facing Batman. And why would a person be drawn to the point where they feel like they need to put on clown makeup and go out and murder people? Think, and I hope, more importantly, I hope we find a true what if story in this, because it's not tied to the DCEU. It's its own story, and it is so gritty, so well put together so far from what we've seen from the trailer and from the photos and just the knowledge we get online. The movie is looking like it's going to shape up to be something very special for comic book fans. But not only that, the average moviegoer and the average comic book reader and just the average person in general, everybody knows who the Joker is. Even if you never read a comic, watch the films. If somebody showed someone who never read the comics, never watched the films, didn't know who Joker was at all, if someone walked up to them and say, who's this character? I'm pretty sure there'll be a higher percentage of people saying in every instance that is the Joker. Same with Darth Vader. You don't have to know these characters by watching the films or reading books, because it's pop culture. everybody knows who the Joker is. And I think humanizing him in this trailer and in this movie eventually, and making him be like this hardworking, weird on at times person that is going to eventually turn into a villain on the highest level, going against one of the greatest superheroes of all time, against Batman. You really need to know in this film that they're gonna attack that issue head on and make sure that we found a Joker that is not like any other Joker we've seen in any of the films, but at the same time holds that essence. I like this. I hope they do more films like this in not only the MCU, but the DCEU, because primarily the DCEU, because they're tailor-made to making these one-offs while another continuity is going on, like Suicide Squad. So we essentially have two Jokers right now. When you can do something like this and just have this one-off, like it's a fucking graphic novel or a comic book, just like this is just one contained story. I like that. I hope they do that with other characters that don't always get the limelight. The one thing about this is Joker. Everybody knows him, but this same method could be potentially applied to any character. You could do some really unique, weird shit. I think Marvel and Fox started figuring that out. You know, like with Deadpool, you can find a character like Deadpool and be like, you know what? This is going to be fucking insane. Let's get this guy to be exactly like he is in the comics, but also pull in a whole nother demographic that we never knew existed, which is maybe people who are just fans of comedy. Because Deadpool is fucking hilarious. But you can apply that to this Joker movie. There are a lot of people out there who love Scorsese films, some of that old school feel, character building, weird tragedy. And you might be able to drag people in on two fronts. The nostalgic factor, of people who have known about the Joker for 30, 40 years. But not only that, you're adding in the fact that this is a new experience of the Joker, or any comic book character for that being said. It looks like the only thing that's come close to this as far as mainstream comic books is Logan. You know, Hugh Jackman. And I know Disney's planning their shows with Falcon and Winter Soldier and Scarlet Witch with Vision and Loki's show, but that's not going to be this. This is something that feels like it came out 20 years ago as a full-blown movie that is tailor-made for audiences who love dialogue, who loves a good story, a good tragedy, something that are going to walk out of the movie theater and it's going to be stuck in their head at least for a few hours. Something unpredictable, something unique, something that's going to benefit the comic book genre as far as movie goes. Because there are a lot of people that are left on the table because they think that everything is like Civil War and Infinity War, and it's not. You do have your Dark Knights in there. You do have your Blades, and even if you want to go as crazy as saying, Doctor Strange and Guardians of the Galaxy, all those movies are very unique. They're not something we've seen before. If somebody walked up to you and said 20 years ago, hey, there's going to be a Doctor Strange movie, and then not only that, he's going to be in the fucking Infinity War, which has all the comic book characters you can think of fighting against Thanos, you would be like, man, you can go fuck yourself. You wouldn't believe him for a second. We're in an era now where anything's possible on that screen, and something like the Joker, where you can have two different lines going on at the same time, just as you would in a graphic novel or a comic book series. I think that is great for films. Film looks like if it performs well, at least, if nothing else, Joaquin Phoenix is looking like he's going to get himself a Best Actor award, or nomination, And I hope he does. I hope he's as good as the trailer looked, because I absolutely love the trailer. I loved all the photo promo that they brought in. And I think this movie is going to shock people. It's coming out right at the right time. I think it comes out in October of 2019. That's right around Halloween. It'll fit in perfectly in that time slot. It's not a lot of competition. This movie should do well. And obviously, it's too early to talk about sequels. I wouldn't want to see the sequel to this. I hope they just do a one-shot and then move on to another character and do the same thing. We have not seen the Penguin on film in a long time. We have not seen Mr. Freeze on screen in a long time. Poison Ivy. There's a lot of characters out there that could use something like this to bring them back to the forefront, because I feel like they're all forgotten, especially if you mention Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze. Batman and Robin, go watch that movie and you understand real quick my meaning about that. things are turning around though, as far as comic book movies go. Captain Marvel just passed $1 billion. And Endgame is gonna most likely pass $1 billion. It's a good time to be a superhero fan, but it's also a good time to be a character of superheroes. A character of superheroes, a fan of the characters of these superheroes, ranging all the way from the heroes to the villains. We have so many things we can watch and tap into, not have to just feel like we have to get it from a comic book, but get a different version of it on screen. Because if you love comics and you're into that kind of stuff, this time we have it in the United States right now and all over the world, but primarily here in the United States, where there's no holds barred when it comes to just putting every cent in these movies and just pumping them out and shipping them all over the world and racking up billions of dollars. I feel like the Joker, just like Venom did, bring in something people knew may have been coming in the future, but not only that, don't let them down. And there's not a lot of people who can look at the film Venom and feel like didn't have a good time. Maybe it's different in the theater when you're paying, if you take a family of 5, you paid $100 to see Venom and may not lived up to your standards. But if you get at home and you're checking it out and you feel like something like Venom is fun and unique and interesting, and I just don't see why you would stop the momentum, especially when you have the opportunity to do something like the Joker one shot. You can do even though Venom's getting a sequel. If they didn't, it still work on its own as a one shot. Patty Jenkins just came out and said that Wonder Woman would be a one shot. It's his own movie. It's not tied in anything, even though Wonder Woman in that universe would have been more involved with the Justice League and everything. But I always felt she was a little weird with that because she's an Amazon woman and sometimes they water these characters down. But I'm glad she's getting her own film that's not tied into anything. The moral of the story is they're doing Wonder Woman 1984 and it's its own story, just like Aquaman was. And I like that. I hope to get back to that. And that's just my thoughts on the trailer. I love the makeup on the Joker. I love the editing of the trailer. I love everything about this film and I cannot wait to see it. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.